All right, folks, it's the Buckeyes Daily Blitz. I am Tito, Jeff Thitoff. Thanks so much for tuning in. Follow me on the X at ThitHappens, where you can find me there. Go to the FantasySports.com website. Download the app, free for Apple and Android users both. Fantasy Sports app. Go check it out. Round-the-clock programming. Lots of great things we have out there from a number of hosts across the country covering various teams, various regions. Go check it out, though. Obviously, Facebook group, Fantasy Sports Facebook group as well. Interact with hosts and other fans. All right. Ohio State, number 3 in the country, takes on number 7 Penn State this week at noon. Fox Big Noon kickoff. And then it was also announced that the Wisconsin game next week will be on primetime. That's on the, I think, 28th. 28th of October. Will be a 7:30 kickoff on in primetime on NBC. Okay. Buckeyes dominated Purdue. And it was announced before the game that Mayan Williams was not going to play. They thought Travion Henderson might play. He did not play. He was ruled out also. And then early in the game, you also had another injury at running back there that hurt Ohio State. And so it was Chip Trayanum, concussion protocol potential. We'll talk about that, though, also. So the top 3 running backs out of the game. Number 2 receiver, who would be a number 1 on every other team in college football, Emeka Egbuka. He also missed the game. And Ohio State still dominated. The offensive lines and defensive lines were the key in this game for Ohio State. And they completely annihilated Purdue on both sides of the ball. Purdue had injuries on the defensive line and offensive line both that hurt them. But the offensive line wasn't really tested. So it was great to see Ohio State get to be able to run the ball effectively. But it's not like Purdue posed much of a challenge for the Buckeyes in this game. So good for Ohio State getting the win and all of that. Dallan Hayden came in and played. He's a guy that last year, if you remember the Maryland game, had a big game as a freshman, and somebody that I think has got a lot of potential. Ryan Day recently talked about the ultimate goal is to redshirt him this year. This was a second game playing. You play 4 games, and then you can still be redshirted. So this was a second game. He had 11 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown. Played very well. Not sure about running back status going into the Penn State game. We'll talk more about that later in the week as we get more information. Ryan Day speaks to the media. It'll be on Tuesday, I believe, this week. And so we'll hear what he has. Or Tuesday or Wednesday, one of the we'll find that out. We'll see what he says about the running back situation there, if Mayan Williams and if Travion Henderson are available, and also the status on Chip Trayanum. Xavier Johnson came in, the Block O player for Ohio State this year, played some running back and receiver. He also had 5 carries for 39 yards and also caught a pass for 21 yards. On the offensive side, Marvin Harrison Jr. does what Marvin Harrison Jr. does, the 100-yard day. 6 catches, 105 yards. Carnell Tate, 3 for 79. Cade Stover, he's going to continue to play a big role on this team, especially if running backs are out. He's going to be a great safety valve for Kyle McCord. He had 4 catches, 53 yards. Brandon Ennis only caught 1 pass, the freshman, 58 yards. It was a touchdown from Devin Brown. McCord finished going 16 out of 28 for 276 yards and 3 touchdowns in the win. Defensive side of the ball, Jack Sawyer had a sack and a half. So did JTT. Cody Simon and Tommy Eichenberg each had 8 total tackles to lead the team. So on the offensive side of the ball, to put a bow on this, let's go defense first. Hudson Card and Bennett Meredith, the quarterbacks for Purdue, went 14 for 35, which is it's hard to go that bad in college football today with how much they favor and how much they give advantages to the passing games and the offenses. 14 for 35. Hudson Card, a former really big-time recruit that went to Texas. Big things expected of him this year. Ohio State shut him down. 14 for 35, 134 yards. That's 3.8 yards per pass attempt. Purdue rushed for 123 yards on 35 attempts. That is 3.5 yards a carry. So offensively, Ohio State, they did something different, mixed things up a little bit. When they got down by the goal line, they brought in Devin Brown. This was designed runs for him. He ran for a touchdown, later on passed for a touchdown. Also had, though, a critical fumble. Not critical. He had a fumble at the 1-yard line of Purdue that resulted in a turnover. But I like the fact they're thinking outside the box and trying to find other ways to get people involved to try to be more effective scoring touchdowns down in the red zone area. So kudos to Ryan Day and Brian Hartline for that. I'm curious to see how they will do it against Penn State. Speaking of Penn State, they've got a great defense, by the way. According to Athletic, they are first in the nation in total defense with 193.7 yards per game allowed. That's a very low number. They allow 3.4 yards a play. right around 120 yards passing per game for their team. The pass attempt, I told you Purdue was 3.5. I think, what did I say? 3 point. Let me check Purdue's number again so I should get it right. Purdue was 3.8 yards per attempt, which is terrible. And Penn State's allowing 4.6. They're also third in the nation in rushing defense, 72.5 yards a game. So Ohio State's offense will be tested. This could be a very low-scoring game at noon when they kick off at the Horseshoe for Ohio State, Penn State. Ohio State, though, kudos to their defense again. Look, defense looks great. They, and this is according to True Media, Ohio State's only allowing 6.6% explosive play rate on defense. So they call explosive plays if you throw a pass, if the pass play that goes from 16 yards or more, or in a running play, 12 yards or more. And Ohio State last year was 26th in the country. This year, they're first. Huge. This defense is going to be the difference in why this team, I believe, will compete for a national championship. They'll be in the playoff, in my opinion. So that's what's going to be the key for this team. Because when the offense struggles, which they have sometimes this year, having that kind of defense who can give you a field position advantage, which is huge, and also create turnovers. Now, they didn't create any turnovers against Purdue. Didn't need to. A lot of 3-and-outs. A lot of pressures on the quarterback. Forced Purdue to make decisions and forced Purdue's offense to look uncomfortable. So, Jim Knowles, I'll hear from this week also, I'm sure. We'll talk more about that as we get later in the week, and we'll preview Penn State more. But the game against Purdue might have been their most complete game, most dominating game this season. And struggled against Maryland. The other games like Western Kentucky, I know they dominated that one, but Western Kentucky's not that good. So I don't know how much stock we put into that. It was a good get-right game for Ohio State, but Ohio State dominated Purdue. Purdue came out and looked like they had no chance whatsoever in this game. Ohio State, the defense dictated the action and made it impossible to where Purdue looked very frustrated on offense throughout the game and uncomfortable. All right, let's look kind of at the national landscape now in college football, because October 31st is when we'll see the first college football rankings, college football playoff rankings come out. And right now it looks like Georgia's they're two-time defending champ, and they're number one in the country right now in the polls. They look very average to me. A little better than average, but they're not like elite this year. I'm not sure if there's an elite team in college football. It was just announced that their best offensive weapon, all-world projected first-round pick tight end Brock Bowers, is going to have surgery on his ankle, and they don't have a time frame for his return yet. He's doing something called they're doing a different kind of surgery on the ankle that normally they would do. They're doing something called tightrope surgery, and what that means is they have surgical thread instead of metal screws in, and that's supposed to accelerate the recovery time. Tua Tagovailoa, when he was in Alabama, he had a similar thing done when he had an ankle injury. He was out for about a month. So we'll see what happens with Brock Bowers. But Brock Bowers is the key to that team offensively. Him missing time, and they've got a really tough stretch coming up. The early part of their schedule was very easy. Tough stretch coming up to close the season. We'll see how long he's out, how that affects Georgia. Michigan, probably the number 2 team in the country. They keep on rolling. They haven't really played anybody yet. Ohio State still, with their victory over Notre Dame, is the best victory in the Big Ten so far to this point. So Michigan gets Sparty in East Lansing on Saturday. Michigan and Michigan State. Michigan State, obviously very down this year, having all kinds of struggles. We'll see what happens in that game. Michigan should roll there, though. And it's going to come down to, look, it used to be Big 2 and Little 8, and now it's Big 3 and Little 11, I guess, because Penn State's in that mix as well. Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State all playing each other still this year, and that's going to decide who wins this conference. I hope to God it's not a 3-way tie. I don't want to see it happen, but Ohio State getting Penn State here this week could get a leg up there on those 3 teams as they figure out who will be the team that wins the Big Ten East and goes on to face Iowa, it looks like, in the Big Ten West, which is also pathetic because Iowa knocked off Wisconsin 15-6, and Iowa's offense is terrible. Their defense is carrying them. It doesn't matter who Iowa. If Iowa wins the Big Ten West and gets to the championship game, they're going to lose by 25 to 30 points against either Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State, hopefully Ohio State. But Iowa is just not that good, and they suck on offense. But they are in place right now. They control their own destiny as far as it goes with the Big Ten West and representing the Big Ten West in the conference championship game after defeating Wisconsin. Okay, number 4, Florida State this week hosts number 16, Duke. They're a big-time favorite. Duke, having a banner year in football for them. That should be a fun game to watch. Number 5, Washington and Michael Penix. They welcome Arizona State after their big win over Oregon. Washington, Michael Penix looked great in that game down to the end. Pac-12, when you've got Washington, you've got Oregon, USC. I know we'll talk about them, but whatever. You got Oregon State, you got Washington State, you got a lot of good UCLA. You got a lot of decent schools in there as far as in the mix. It looks like it's going to be like probably, if I had to bet, I would say Washington, Oregon, and a rematch in the Pac-12 championship game with a potential CFP berth on the line at that point. UCF, Central Florida's at number 6, Oklahoma. Might be a trap game for Oklahoma. They've looked good lately, but this is going to be a tougher game for Oklahoma, I think, than most people realize. Notre Dame is now ranked 15th in the AP. They're off this week after destroying USC. And for Ohio State fans, every time Notre Dame gets a big-time win, it's good. If I'm an Ohio State fan, I want Notre Dame win every game going out. Makes that win at Notre Dame a couple weeks ago look so much better. Okay, recruiting-wise, Blake Woodby, a cornerback. He's a 4-star. He committed to Ohio State over the weekend. He's from Baltimore. He is the number 9 cornerback overall in this recruiting cycle, according to 24/7 Sports. And he's 5'11". He had a top 5 school list back in September. It had Ohio State, Tennessee, Clemson, Oregon, Alabama in it. So that's a good get for the Buckeyes for the class of 2024. Get another cornerback in there. They can't get enough guys. And like I always said, I love it when they get somebody like this because that's somebody Jim Knowles wants. And Jim Knowles says, this guy can fit my defense. So excited about that. Jordan Seaton's the last one we're kind of looking at for the class of 2024. He is the number 2 offensive lineman in the country. He's 6'5". He's 287 from down in Florida. And I don't think they'll get him. It kind of feels like he's going to go somewhere else, but we'll see what he does. But that would be a huge get for Ohio State. We'll see if they can somehow push and make that happen. Switching gears now, men's basketball. And like I said, we'll talk more about Penn State later in the week. I promise you. We'll do more of a preview on that and more of a deep dive. We'll hear from Ryan Day, hear from Jim Knowles, see what they have to say post-Purdue, pre-Penn State. AP Top 25 comes out, men's basketball. Ohio State, not ranked, which I expected. I still think they'll be in the tournament. I still think they've got a chance to make it to the Sweet 16. I love this team. I love Chris Holtman, but they aren't ranked in the top 25. Kansas, Duke, Purdue, Michigan State, Marquette, they're the top 5. So you got a couple of Big Ten schools in that top 5, actually the top 4. Ohio State's first big game this year will be Texas A&M, and at the Shot at Value City Arena, they're hosting A&M. It's the first part of a home-and-home with them game exclusively on Peacock, so be ready for that. But number 15 is where Texas A&M checks in the poll. Future Big Ten member USC checks in at 21. Alabama's 24, another team on Ohio State's schedule this year. Illinois 25. Wisconsin was 26 among the schools. They were the top school receiving votes that did not make it in. But super close now. We're a little more than a week out less than a week out, right? About a week out from the Ohio State exhibition against Dayton. And then after that, we're going to have the Ohio State season get underway. They'll play Oakland, and they'll play A&M in that game. Can't wait for that. Lots of updates coming this week on men's basketball, women's basketball, and obviously we'll do a lot more college football talk as we get into it. Follow me on the X, @FitHappens. By the way, go download the FanStream Sports app. It is free. Apple and Android users, I'm telling you, there's so much great content on this site. We are FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media. This has been the Buckeye Blitz. Talk to you again soon. Have a great day.